Good evening. Today I will be refuting the claim of fact speech that was presented 2 weeks ago. The claim the advocate argued was that the Iranian presidential election of 2009 was fixed. Now there are 3 points the advocate stated to support this claim, and they are that 1, candidate Ahmadinejad won the election despite his falling popularity. 2, Ahmadinejad also put fake ballots in his name in voting polls throughout the country. And 3, Ahmadinejad suppressed and abused Iranian voters. Now, during my refutation, I will be proving that the advocate's argument holds flaws in the actual grounds provided through the misuse of evidence and the inference of the claim based on governmental bias of the reformist Musavi. Now, going back to the actual claim, the advocate had committed an instance of ambiguity known as amphibole, which simply means that the advocate had given rise to an unintended meaning of the word fixed. Consequently, the word fixed allows this whole claim to be misinterpreted to mean that the election wasn't repaired, instead of meaning that the election was indeed a sham and a basis of fraud. Now that I've explained the misguided wording of the claim itself, I will now go into its primary support for the claim. Now, as I mentioned before, the advocate states its first point that candidate Ahmadinejad won the election despite his falling popularity. Now, this supporting point presumes major significance to the main claim because it develops a relationship between fact and fact. However, he fails to differ between other factors that may have led to Ahmadinejad's win. Now, the advocate's reasoning behind A, his falling popularity, and C, his winning of the Iranian election in 2009, ignores the likely possibilities of B, which are the other factors, rather than place blame on a cheated situation. Now, though it is true that Ahmadinejad's popularity was extremely low, according to the CRS, which is the Congressional Researching Service, his triumph should not assume to be falsified. Now, another significant factor leading to his win may also have been his underestimation, which had been connected to his prior election back in 2005. Now, also, during his campaign, there was proof that his message of piety and anti-corruption, coupled with his hard line on national security issues, are both popular among the majority of Iranians, which is another factor which may have led to his win in 2009. In addition, there's no way his incumbent status, which was his presidential status of 2005, affected how the government dealt with the election, because according to the private evidence from the CRS, others have argued that election fraud on such a massive scale would have involved many levels of the government and would be difficult to penetrate and conceal. Now, establishing a relationship between Ahmadinejad's losing popularity and his win of 62% of the votes undermines the validity of other claims by claiming that he had cheated on the basis of his government connection. The advocate's lack of consideration for additional factors and the ones which are widely known is means to dismiss his first supporting point. Now that I've explained the inaccuracy of his first supporting point, I will now move on to the second point of the advocate's argument. Now, in the advocate's second point to support his main claim, he states that Ahmadinejad also put fake ballots in his name in voting polls throughout the country. Now, however, as support for his second point, he also mentions that the Supreme Leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, encouraged Musavi, the reformist, to look into the election and investigate it. Now, this support actually has no merit on the advocate's second point. There's no reason to insert this type of information, therefore I have reasons to dismiss the claim. And so I have no counterclaim for that supporting point. Now, finally, for the third point, the advocate stated that Ahmadinejad ordered physical abuse to be placed upon the voters, but I did not find any media evidence when this was reported. The advocate uses the secondary claim to reinforce the validity of his primary claim without proving actual circumstances. Now, though I have no counterclaim for this third point as well, I choose to deny the supporting claim because there's no way confirming that Ahmadinejad's alleged physical abuse caused for his re-election. Now, as I've clearly explained, my advocate's insufficient evidence to positively correlate Ahmadinejad's presidential win with fraud, OP can agree other factors may have led to what has been known as a fixed election. Lack of causative factors and inaccurate quotation caused me to deny any rash argument against Ahmadinejad's win. Thank you.
All right, Chantel, what you did is pretty much direct your responses to the grounds and the warrants used by the advocate instead of trying to argue a counterclaim that it was in fact fair or that there was good reason to believe that Ahmadinejad did win the election. You just talked about the adequacy of the proof of the advocate. And I thought you did that in a pretty effective way. I don't know that there's much question about what fixed means in that argument, so I'm not sure that that's really an ambivalence that's going on there. I think your better arguments are on the secondary points, where on the first one you're arguing that there could be alternative explanations, and this is where you do have a little bit of a counterclaim that there are other factors that are involved. For instance, that he'd previously been underestimated and been successful, that there are popular issues that the Iranian people tended to support, and then there's also this just the general argument that it would have to be so deep in the corruption or the conspiracy there that it would be difficult to conceal. I thought that that was a pretty reasonable argument at that point. And then there's some challenge to the grounds that the advocate used. On the second point, you basically are making that this is a relevance argument and it doesn't advance the claim. I think you need to explain that a little bit more, but I understand why you spent so little time on it based on the grounds that the advocate provided. On the third point, I thought that you did a pretty good job in challenging, once again, the evidence that the advocate's using on that point. Throughout the presentation, it feels a little bit like you're rushing, and so you want to pace yourself a little bit, give us a chance to absorb some of the things, because some of the ideas that you're presenting are a little bit more complex, require us to process them a bit, and if you're just going through them rapid fire, people might just give up instead of paying attention and say, well, I guess that sounds reasonable. And we want people to think critically, not just be bulldozed by an argument. All right, thank you.